A new multi-university collaboration called Aotea is using augmented, virtual and mixed realities to help make Māori connect with their reo, culture and identity. This includes a foray into digitising Te Rau Aroha Marae, the world's southernmost marae in Motupohue Bluff. Aotea is a joint project between Otago, Canterbury, Massey, Waikato and Te Runanga o Awarua in Motupohue, and is led by Massey University Professor Dr. Hemi Whanga no Ngāti Kahungunu Kaitohu, and he's with us now. Tēnā koe, Professor Whanga. Thank you for joining us.
Tēnā koe.
What was the motivation behind creating this initiative, Aotea?
So one of the things that a few years ago we were tasked with for one of the National Science Challenges, Science for Technological Innovation, was how do we actually create technologies that can connect our people? In particular, what future-focused technologies can we think that our tikanga, our reo, and connection to place can develop into? So that was kind of one of the key drivers for us.
And how does the concept work in principle?
The project itself has a number of different elements. So one of the elements, the virtual element, in particular around how do we engage with the reality? What does that place and space look like for us as Māori? And how does our tikanga work in that? That's one element. Another element is addressing how do we capture that mātauranga in terms of building our own repositories, access to those repositories, where's the mana of those repositories, so that's another aspect. And another key element working with tohunga and people who are leading in this area is around the tikanga involved. How does our tikanga move from a tikanga where it's face-to-face to one where it's in a different reality altogether? And so how does our tikanga evolve and adapt and can be applied into these different spaces?
And that's what the technology can afford us if done right? So 80% of the population born in Motupohue Bluff now live outside the area. How has Aotea helped to build a virtual bridge for whānau to connect back to their tūranga waiwai?
We've been working on this for about 4 or 5 years now and prototyping the different ways that we believe, based on research, based on interactions with the marae at home, talking to our leaders, talking to rangatahi, still in the prototype stages where we've built things. And then this weekend we actually have an open day back at home in Bluff. We want to share those findings with communities. And then, getting us to think about what does connecting mean for us? What sort of, because the marae is built by Cliff Whiting, it was his goal to develop a whānau, based around storytelling, based around whakapapa, based around how do we connect into their whare, how do we connect to the whenua, and how do we very, very, very future focused. So one of the things we wanted to do was think about, well, how do we actually incorporate that element using these new technologies? And how do our people maintain the hono to home?
Well, how does the virtual experience then compare to the feeling of being kanohi ki te kanohi?
Yeah, that's one of the really interesting research questions. So we have a group of researchers from Otago University led by Professor Holger Rickenbach, and another one in Canterbury University in the HIT lab, Rob Lindemann. There's two elements that we're really interested in. There's sort of like the presence and co-presence. So presence is like, how do you actually feel when you're looking at and inside this reality? And another one, which we're still at the early stages of, is, okay, you can imagine that I'm up here at Massey, you're there in Wellington, wherever you are in Auckland, and then someone's in Bluff, and we're joining that same space at the same time. And then there's a lot of technological issues with trying to get that to work, but how does that mean in terms of co-presence?
Okay.
So the place in which you gather can be anywhere. It can be in the ngahere, it can be at marae, but what does that feeling look like? And then how do you enhance that in terms of introducing things like movement, smell, wind into the experience? Does that enhance it, or does that actually overpower the actual visual? So visual is very, very strong. We've tested it with some of our whānau. They've been really moved, they've been moved to tears. Some of them are like, this is amazing, it feels like we're in there. and also introducing a really critical element of how does the whānau feel, how does the Māori feel about it. Yeah, it's a fascinating kind of area to be working on.
Well, it's almost like a 6D experience. Do we have 6D? No, we don't have 6D. We're going to have 6D. Massey University Professor Dr. Hemi Whanga, lead for the University Collaboration Ātia. Thank you so much for joining us today, ngā mihi.
Ngā mihi. Tēnā koe.